I got that first rent check in the mail that first month. And when I opened up the envelope and I saw a $1,000 check, I was so excited.
Hello and welcome to episode 241 of the Smart Agents Podcast. As always, my name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. On today's episode, we are joined by Tyler Gibson of Orlando-based GPG Team. Initially entering the industry as an investor, Tyler got his license in the fall of 2019. Leveraging his own experience investing in properties, Tyler focuses his efforts on helping make buying real estate accessible to everyone. Throughout our conversation, Tyler shares exactly how his real estate journey began, his tips for making it past the daunting first few months in the industry, and advice for agents looking to invest themselves. But before we get on with the day's featured interview, if you or someone else on your team has an incredible story of real estate success or tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new guests to inspire our listeners. And lastly, if you enjoy this conversation and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. We stream on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. All right, let's get on with our conversation with Tyler Gibson. If you're interested in hearing more from Tyler, be sure to check out the episode description for links to his podcast, Leads and Leverage Real Estate Team Leaders Lounge. Really, the way I like to start everything out is if you could just introduce yourself to us a little bit. Tell us who you are and where you are located.
Yeah, my name's Tyler Gibson. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I now lead a team of agents here. And we service the entire Central Florida market from Daytona all the way to Tampa. We've done deals. We try to stay close to home, but we've done business all over the place. And yeah, that's awesome. That's the short, quick version.
Yes, I mean, really that kind of that I-4 corridor you kind of hit. Yeah, awesome.
Exactly.
Well, tell me about how what got you interested in real estate to begin with.
Yeah, so. My dad modeled a behavior, right? I tell people all the time, we never had a conversation about the power of real estate to grow your wealth. We never talked about cash flow. We never talked about rentals. But I saw a behavior where, growing up, he would try to buy a house whenever we had to move somewhere. And we moved a lot, for context. And so I noticed that he would try to buy a place whenever we moved somewhere new. And then when we moved away, he would try to keep it as a rental. And so I just noticed that he was doing this, and he wasn't always able to keep everything, right? But I knew that he tried whenever he could to keep them as rentals. And so after my wife and I had gotten married, and we both had stable, salary jobs, and my wife is very frugal, so we lived well below our means. I came home one day and said, "Hey, what if we bought a rental property?" Feeling like I was going to need to justify this or explain it in some way, shape, or form. And my wife said, okay. And so I put away my charts and graphs and things that I was I'm kidding. I'm not that well prepared, but, I was like, oh, okay. I'm not going to have to back up why I think this is a good idea. And so we called our real estate agent because I wasn't licensed at the time and said, hey, I'm looking for something that's within 2 miles of where I currently live. That's under $150,000. And I didn't really have any money. We had a little bit of savings, but not a lot. But my dad had just come into some cash, and knowing that he had a passion for real estate, I just approached him and was like, hey, could you be the bank for me?
Yeah. Right.
I'd rather pay you interest than the bank. To which he said yes. And so we ended up finding a place, and I bought a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow here in Orlando for $115,000 back when you could buy something in Orlando for $115,000. And, we put a tenant, it was basically move-in ready. We put a tenant in it. And we were off to the races. I got that first rent check in the mail that first month. And when I opened up the envelope and I saw a $1,000 check, I was so excited. I went inside, I showed it to my wife, and I said, babe, this is the best money I've ever made. We didn't do anything, and we got $1,000. To which she quickly burst my bubble and said, well, we didn't make $1,000. The mortgage is $600. I said, yeah, I didn't say make. I just said we got $1,000. Right. Like, this is awesome. And so I was hooked. And so I started trying to figure out, how do I make more of this kind of money when you don't have any money, right? Because we had spent all of our savings to buy this one rental property. And not all of our savings, but everything that we were comfortable with at the time, right? And so I started to try to do some research, and I had this idea in my head that if I found a good deal, I could find the money, right? If I found a really good deal, I'm sure I could ask enough people, I could find the money to be able to buy it. So I wanted to learn, how do you find a good deal? And so I started to try to do some research, and I was Googling a lot. I think what really, kind of the turning point was I Googled how looking for a spreadsheet that would help me analyze real estate as an investment. A rental calculator, like an investment rental calculator, is basically what I was Googling. And this was about 10 years ago. And I came across in the Google search results was a link to a forum where somebody had posted a spreadsheet. That forum was biggerpockets.com. Yeah. For people that don't know, it's the world's largest real estate investor forum and website. They also have the #1 real estate podcast in the world. And so I stumbled across this great treasure trove of knowledge and community that I'd never seen before. And so I get the calculator and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then I'm like, oh, they got a podcast. So I started listening to the podcast. And at the time I worked in Sanford. I lived near downtown Orlando, and it's about a 45-minute commute one way to my job at the time. And I traveled a lot for work too. So I spent a lot of time in cars and planes and trains and all the things. And so I started listening to the podcast religiously. And so I would listen to, like 2 episodes a day, one there, one back. And I just started to learn a lot about real estate. And I learned that the best deals come from wholesalers. And so I started trying to connect with wholesalers. And I did end up finding a place. I partnered with some family. We acquired it. It was a much bigger project than I would recommend for people that had my level of experience. But, I was determined to figure out and make it happen. So fast forward a few years. In 2018, December 2018, I found out I was going to be a father. Eventually, finally, I was going to be a father. We had been trying for a long time, and I was going to be a dad. So I really started to rethink my job at the time, because I traveled about 25 weeks a year. Oh. I wanted to be the type of father that didn't miss anything. So traveling 25 weeks a year was not going to be conducive to that type of life. And so I started thinking about, well, how can I, what else can I do? Well, I started looking for a new job. Okay, great. I ended up getting a new job early 2019. And then at the new job, I was new. I had a book of business, but my time wasn't fully utilized. Okay. And I'm sure there's somebody that has a 9-to-5 that understands sometimes when you have a 9-to-5, you don't actually work from 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. You're there from 9 to 5, but you're not doing work the whole time. Right. And in my case in particular, I had clients and meetings and whatnot. So I just wasn't busy all the time. And so I decided, I might go ahead and get my real estate license. And the goal was really to have access to the data that the MLS provides and to try to find more rentals for me. And I thought, well, if I sold a house 1 or 2 a year and made some extra cash, that'd be cool. But it just helped me build my portfolio even more. Right. And so I ended up updating. I ended up passing the test in August of 2019 and being licensed here in the state of Florida. And I updated my profile on biggerpockets.com that I was a licensed realtor and put my profile information in there, or my license information in there. And they contacted me shortly afterwards. The platform did. And I had been very active on the platform over the last few years. And so they asked me if I wanted a free premium account, which was a paid deal and I asked, what's the catch? They just wanted agents to be interacting. And so I ended up saying okay to that. And it came with a little lead form so people could fill out, say that they were looking to talk to an agent. And that's how I sold my first house. Somebody filled out the contact form. I ended up speaking with them on the phone. They actually had an agent they were already working with. And they were a young couple that wanted a house hack. And the agent they were working with didn't understand the concept of house hacking. She didn't know what it was, didn't understand why anyone would want to rent out rooms in the house that they live in. And so because I understood it, and I understood that this is a great way to become a real estate investor early on with as little money down as possible. I think they connected and resonated with me. They ended up going and firing their other realtor. and calling me back said, hey, I canceled my other contract with my other agent. I want to work with you. And I was like, great. And they ended up calling me the next weekend and say that they had gone through an open house. They want to make an offer on it. So this is not like most people's traditional first sale, right? Like I didn't meet them till we were at the inspection, but it was a really unique experience. And what I found was that the people that I was interacting with from this platform, they really appreciated the fact that I already had my own rental property. I already had some experience as an investor. And so there was a next level of trust in me and what I was doing. And, fortunately for me at the time, every time I talked to somebody, I had the ability to say, hey, listen, I don't care if you buy a house or not. I'm just here to help you as you explore this market because I have a full-time job. So you also need to understand I have a full-time job. This is kind of my side gig. So it means that I'm not going to be available immediately when you need something. But I'm pretty responsive via email and text messages. And if you need to talk on the phone, I'll try to call you back as soon as I possibly can. But it also means that I don't need you to buy a house in order for me to pay my bills, feed my child, do all those things. So know that there's no pressure from my perspective. I'm just here to help. I found that perspective gave me so much more credibility and opportunity with those people. Because I think one of the things that agents fall into the trap of is needing money. Right? We all need money. But if you really need money, it tends to ooze out of you when you're talking with consumers, especially if they're talking about whether or not they should make an offer on this house or whether or not they should move forward with the inspection. You have to be able to detach yourself and your personal interest from that outcome, or the consumer will know. They will feel it. They may not know, but they will feel it. They will not work with you again next time. And so it was a huge blessing for me at that time that I didn't need the money. I wanted to help people, and I loved real estate. I loved talking about it. And so it was a very different entry into the real estate world for me. And then after I closed that first deal, the platform actually called me back and said, hey, we're going to start running banner ads on the platform. Would you like to run banner ads? And so it was a monthly cost, and they would basically target people by IP and, put my face to follow them around the website. And since I had just closed a deal and I didn't need that money, I'm like, house money, let's go. Sure, why not? Right. Since then, I've spent a lot of money on paid lead generation that didn't work. And I've tried it all. So, but this was just slightly different. The people that were coming to the site, and it was just very different. And so I started participating in that, and that helped us get several more clients the remainder of that year. I think I did 12 transactions in 2020, which was when I sold the first house. I got a license October 2019, sold my first house, I think, in March of 2020. But we ended up doing 12 transactions that year part-time. The next year, I ended up connecting with a national hedge fund flipper, and we ended up doing 12 transactions for them alone in about a period of 6 months. And so I ended up quitting my job 2 years to the day, October 2021. I quit my full-time job to go into real estate full-time, and had already started a team by that point, and just continued to lean into focusing on working with real estate investors. I mean, we will help anyone buy and sell, but we continued to focus and use that particular lead generation source along with some automations and things that I built to try to help as many people as we possibly could.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Talking about how, because you had done it yourself, how much credibility that gave you, because it is difficult, when you are a new agent and you're trying to get your first deal and people are like, oh, well, have you sold anything before? You're like, no, I haven't. But, you had the experience of what this particular couple was wanting to do and become investors themselves.
Well, yeah, I think for them, the fact that I had a rental already, so I could guide them a little bit on how to deal with tenants and things like that. But more so just that I had skin in the game, right? And I understood what house hacking was and why they were trying to do that, as where the other agent they had been working with had no concept of it. But you're so true. I mean, you're so right. Since I started my team, I find that the biggest challenge for agents is when they do finally get in front of somebody that might be an opportunity, they get one of two questions that usually is going to stump them. So how long have you been a realtor? Right? Oh, well, I just started. Next. And then the other one is, oh, how many homes have you sold?
Right.
Right? And these will kill somebody that's brand new in the industry unless they have a really good response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for most people, it's hard to have a good response. But it's actually one of the reasons why I started to start a real estate team, because I knew that there were other agents who were like me that had started part-time. And when you start part-time, it can be done, right? And I know that there's a lot of haters on part-time agents, and okay, I get it, right? But there's two different types of part-time agents in my mind. There are part-time agents that want to be professionals, right? And they're going to educate themselves. They're going to put in the time to learn what the business is about, how contracts work, all the different things that you have to learn. And so much of it is learned on the job in transactions, right? But, and then there are people that get the license thinking it's going to be quick money and they're going to do it part-time and hopefully they'll get a deal, right? And those are two very different people. One person's trying to, go the quick, fast, easy way. The other person's like, no, I want to get started now, even though I can't devote all my time, but I'm going to give it as much effort and energy that I can. And so I started a team so that when new agents come into this industry, they can keep their job, because it's hard it's really hard to get started and get to a point where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to have enough money every single month. I've got systems, I've got processes, I got a pipeline, right? But it takes a long time to get there for a lot of folks. And so how can they survive? Well, keep your part-time job or your full-time job and do this part-time, because most of this, when you initially start, is just about having connections, right? Mm-hmm. With the people that you already know, like and trust you. Make sure that they know that you're in the business, but you are going to face that. How many homes have you sold? And so when you join a team, you have a perfect response. Well, I'm actually brand new, but that's why I joined Tyler and Company. Tyler's done X, Y, Z. He's got these portfolios. He has this experience. When would be a good time for us to talk with him? Because now it's not you. Like, it's you, and you get to have that experience, but you don't have to know everything. And in fact, you get to refer to a higher authority. And there's a lot of value in being able to refer to a higher authority, especially when you are brand new in the industry. So we teach people not how to convert leads, but we teach them how to introduce them to somebody on our team that can help win that business and get them into a buyer agreement or get them into a listing agreement. And then they're going to be a part of that transaction as they start moving forward. And now they're going to start to have the real world experience. And the next time somebody says, well, how many homes have you sold? Well, actually, I just sold my first one, and it's because I joined this team. Here's what they do. And so that's our goal now as we continue to grow and scale the team, is helping people that want to get into this industry that may not have the capacity to go for 6 months without a paycheck, to get started in a way that will allow them to build the business, because that's what it takes. I mean, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy.
Yeah. And I'm glad, you mentioned that, that 6 months of going without a paycheck, because, I know a lot of people, they get into it and, they think I can handle it. I can do that 6 months, without bringing the money in. But then once, month 2, 3 starts to hit, it gets real and they start to panic and maybe jump ship a little early. And I think that's really cool that, with your model, allowing these people that really want to make something out of real estate, you give them that time to not panic and to not, have that freak out mode where they pull the ripcord too early.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the few industries where you can start a business for $2,000 and have the potential to make $100,000. But it's also one of the very few industries where they give you a license and they're like, all right, figure it out.
Right.
Best of luck to you.
Right.
Right. And the attrition rate is so bad. And it's because I think people don't understand what they're getting themselves into, first and foremost. And they're just not financially prepared to be able to outlast how long it can take before you start seeing the results of your effort. It took me 6 months. I was 6 months before I sold my first house, right? And fortunately, I didn't need to have money right then, and so I was able to kind of work through and figure it out. But we're trying to create that opportunity here, and then I do try to shorten the curve for agents
Hmm.
on my team so that it's not 6 months or a year. But it all comes down to individual effort, right? Even if I work 9 to 5, I still have, I have a couple hours in the evening. I could be calling my friends and family to play catch up, right? Which is what we instruct our agents to do. You're not calling to try to pitch them real estate. You're calling to say, hey, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. How's your wife? How are your kids? And we follow forward.
Hmm.
Family, occupation, recreation, dreams.
Right.
Get through it all. There's like social norms in our society. So if I call you and we're having a conversation and I'm asking you about you all the time, eventually you will feel some sort of social pressure to say, well, hey, how are you doing? And that's when you get an opportunity to tell people, well, actually, I got started in real estate. And instead of calling and saying, hey, my broker told me to call you. Who do you
Hmm.
know that's looking to buy or sell? You've actually made a deposit in that relationship, right? And so I think it's really important to be mindful of withdrawals and deposits that we make in our relationships in our everyday life, right? We should make more deposits than we make withdrawals, and so that sometimes means just call and say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything I can do to help you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And saying that, I mean, looking at your social media pages and what you're doing, I mean, everything is value based. You're sharing so much information, that for anybody that is, looking to get into real estate investing themselves or something like that. I think that's it's in that same mindset because you see so many agents that it's just their on their social media pages it might just be their newest listing or they're just sold, but having those pages that people can go to learn something from and build a connection with you, I think is awesome.
Yeah. So we actually do a local real estate investor meetup once a month where we host. We usually bring local investors in to share what they're doing. It's not. We don't sell anything there. A couple of times we've had people that had products they sold, but and I don't think we're having those people back. It's just not the community that we're building. But yeah, and I really encourage agents to learn the investing side of things, understand how to analyze real estate as an investment, if for no other reason as a long term rental,
Mhm.
because it'll give you a skill set and it'll differentiate you. Because most agents don't understand it. They sell bad deals all the time, and when you get good at it, when you learn how to work with investors, it can be some of the most stable business ever. Because the average homeowner, I think they say they buy or sell a home every 7 years. Real estate investors, they buy one a year at least, usually, right? And so I encourage every agent that I talk to or that I know to have a portion of your business that is real estate investors, because they buy in every single type of market you can think of: high markets, low markets, slow markets, fast markets. They're going to be active, um, and and yeah, they're going to be repeat customers as long as you do a good job for them, and they know that you are focused on their success and it's not about you. And but yeah, so many agents don't understand this stuff. I mean, I've been called a unicorn agent a couple of times by investors that called
Mhm.
me and were trying to talk me into some sort of thing. They're like, "Wait a minute, you know this stuff? You're like a unicorn." I'm like, I don't know about that, but my
Yeah.
daughter would be happy if I was.
Yeah, mine too. Absolutely. But so, when it comes to that, what are some of the things that you think, set you apart? Outside of doing the investing yourself and having that real world experience, but maybe your approach and your team's approach that you take to working with investors.
So, I mean, for us, it all starts with a discovery call. We have a process we put everybody through, and that initial phone call is really just about understanding their goals. And I think that's the ultimate, like, that's what you have to do is get to know the person, what their goals are. We're very honest with people. So if somebody calls me and says, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for a rental that meets the 1% rule," I'm like, "Yeah, well we're not going to find that here. Maybe Jacksonville, but you won't like that area of town." And so I spend a lot of time just trying to understand what people's goals are and then educate them about what we see in the market. What are our opportunities here? Orlando is an equity market, not a cash flow market. You're going to build your wealth through the equity, through the appreciation, through the principal pay down. You're probably not going to get much, if any, cash flow, at least not initially, right? Because prices and rent ratios, they're just not there. So that's really what we try to focus on. And what makes us different is that we're honest with people. Somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I got this deal." I'm not afraid to say, "That's a bad deal." Right. And because it does me no good to sell them one bad deal and I never hear from that person again. I would much rather talk them out of 3 bad deals and wait a year so that I can do 5 transactions with them over the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in a reputation business, you don't want to be that person that, just tied somebody's life savings up into a bad deal. Whereas if you could have told them, "Hey, let's pump the brakes on this one. I've got a couple other ones we can look at," that sets themselves up for, being able to purchase a second place or whatever. Now they're telling all their friends and family, like, "Hey, you should talk to this guy if you're interested in doing what we're doing."
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing that I would just say, and this is speaking directly to agents, is that it's great to make commissions and make, a lot of commissions. That's great. But if you're not taking that money and investing it into something that's going to give you income in 10 years when you don't want to be selling houses anymore, then you're going to be stuck on this transactional hamster wheel, right? So, I feel very fortunate that I came into real estate from a different angle, so that I'm not caught up in making sure that I've got the white Beamer out front or whatever it is. I think it's a Tesla now. You're supposed to drive a Tesla. And, I just stay hyper focused on building my portfolio, helping the agents that are on my team and helping the people that contact us on a daily basis to help them grow.
Yeah, I think having those multiple legs and multiple streams of income allows you to, take a step back and really be that person that is, trying to be the advisor for your client rather than chasing that next paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we have on our website and business cards. Real estate advisor. That's more so what we're here to do, and help people get access to the resources, information they need to make good informed decisions for themselves based off of their own goals.
Yeah. For, for agents, whether they, are joining your team or, agents that are just listening to this or your podcast or everything that you're doing, that are interested in getting started in real estate investing themselves, what are some of those maybe first steps that they need to take to jump in?
So the first thing I would tell you is to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you've never read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's kind of the first step. I don't like reading. I listened to the audiobook. It was great. I think Robert actually did the voiceover himself, so it's fun to listen to. But I would start there for anybody because it will help you really understand the investor mindset, right? I mean, you basically get the playbook that most of these people are trying to execute. Because when I started listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, one of the things that I noticed is that every person on the episode, when they were asked what was kind of the impetus for you to decide to go down this road, they all said they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I had never read it. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to read this book, and so I did, and it just reaffirmed a lot of the things that I was already starting to think and believe. But I would encourage any agent that wants to work with investors to read that book. It'll give you a really good perception of what their thought process is. And then it's just about education. I mean, when you're driving in the car, listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast. Go back and listen to the old one. Now you're going to hear them talk about the 1% rule and a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist today. But the other content that they're describing will give you a lot of information. And then if there's any local meetups, chances are there's local in-person investor meetups that are happening, in whatever market you're listening to this in. And so go find those. Go to meetup.com or Eventbrite and search for real estate and see if there's any real estate investing events, because getting to know other investors in your local market can be a huge benefit. And it's a place where you can start to talk to people and start to build a network in that particular community. So that's what I would suggest people do first. It's almost an educational requirement. You almost have to know how does the math work for determining whether or not this is a good rental or not? How do I know if it actually cash flows? And so learning those kinds of things, I think, would be the first step. And then go out and buy something for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. What, for anybody, listening to this and wanting to hear more from you or, follow you, where can they do that? And talk to me about some of the things you're doing.
Yeah, so they can follow us on Instagram, real_Tyler Gibson, or Facebook, real.TylerGibson. Our website is gpghome.com. And first Saturday of each month, we host an investor meetup here in Orlando, different topics every week. It's free to join. And yeah, if people are interested in investing here in Central Florida or becoming a realtor here in Central Florida, they can reach out to me through any of those ways and we'll get a hold of them.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, I do want to ask you, through all the growth that you've had in a very short amount of time, from, getting your own investment property to starting your team, what are some of the future goals and plans for you yourself and your team?
Future goals and plans. So we plan to continue to build the real estate portfolio. And then my goal is to continue to grow our real estate sales team here and equipping people that want to be in this industry with knowledge and skills that they're going to need in order to be able to have success. And ultimately, my goal is to try to replicate myself in this industry and find other people that have the same, heart for service and interest in real estate that want to build businesses for themselves or start their own teams and try to help people do that all on their own.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here. It was a blast.
I really want to thank Tyler for joining us today and sharing his story of real estate success and how he's growing his team. Remember to check out the episode description for links to Tyler's social channels and podcast, Leads and Leverage Real Estate Team Leaders Lounge. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an incredible story of real estate success or tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.